With us on Sunday Express tonight, I told you we'll be talking about co-parenting, an issue that is currently picking up in our society, especially with the increasing cases of divorce. We are seeing a lot of parents getting into an agreement whereby the two of them decide that they are going to not allow their differences to affect the upbringing of their child. So they enter into this pact of raising their child together. But this comes with a lot of complexities, especially when both parents decide to move on and they are seeing other people, perhaps even married to other people. What are the boundaries and what are some of the do's and don'ts when you're co-parenting and you're in another relationship? How far is too far? And these are the buttons we want to touch tonight, courtesy of a request by one of our viewers who requested that we discuss this subject. And I've brought in somebody who works with parents in this particular journey. And her name is Jane Ruben. Jane Ruben is a parental empowerment facilitator. Thank you, Jane. Many are actually surprised there's something like that. But it's not easy, parenting, and you can never do it alone. So thank you so much for creating your time on Easter to come and share this with us.
Thank you, Serfine.
Yeah. So we are talking about co-parenting.
Yes.
It's a subject that has been quite, a mountain for many who are doing it right now as we speak. There are so many decisions to make. Some you agree on as parents, some you don't. And it's just something that we can talk about all night. But let's begin by just the basics. What is co-parenting from your perspective?
All right. So thank you very much. It's nice to be here, to discuss this kind of a thing. I wouldn't have missed, even if it's on an Easter holiday, because I know this is a topic that people need out there. I come across so many parents who are also asking the same thing. So co-parenting is when you have to parent one child or children and you're not staying together, so you have to sort of co-parent, and that is what it is by when we talk about co-parenting.
And this does not mean that the parents are separated by distance. It's not a long distance marriage. Let's set that clear. This is in a situation where the parents have decided that they can no longer continue to be in that marriage together, or in that relationship, and they've gone their way, but they still want to raise the children together. So that is what we are talking about tonight. So in the next few minutes, I want us to talk about the complexities of co-parenting, especially when the two parties in this agreement leave alone the children. The two parties have decided to move on, and they could be seeing other people. What are some of the fundamental principles that need to be considered, when, these two people are making this sort of decision, putting the interest of the child at the center of this? Before you decide to move on and you're co-parenting, what are some of the things that you're supposed to consider?
Of course, when you're co-parenting, there are a lot of emotions. Remember, these are people who have separated. I mean, they were once lovebirds, and now things have gone separate ways, and now they can't at all stay together, and so they have to agree on how to bring up their children. So there are many things that will come in there, and one of the things that probably needs to happen is that they need to set boundaries. There ought to be boundaries, and we are saying it is starting from a relationship that has gone sour. So there are a lot of resentment, there is a lot of anger, there is a lot of bad things happening in their lives, and so the only thing you can be able to work together as parents is to be able to look at the interests of the child and say, okay, we've gone separate ways, things are not working for us, but we have these children or we have this child that we need to take care of, and so then you need to come up with some boundaries. And one of the boundaries that probably you need to do, this is unwritten, keep it simple, just keep it simple. And one of the things that probably a parent should be able to do is to stick to the parenting rules. Like, you need to ensure that what is your role as a mother or as a father, you do and you execute for the sake of your child, and keep it simple. The other thing that should also happen is that you should not badmouth about the other parent, and that's the boundary that probably will know. Of course, there would be probably, you may have come out of that relationship because maybe the man was narcissistic, or there were many bad things were happening, and so you left the person without caring much. But then the right of a child to be parented by the two parents is fundamental. So it is important for you to ensure that you don't badmouth about the other. These children will grow up, or this child will grow up, and they can actually be able to pick on why you to separate, or why you didn't stay together, or why they were not parented together by both parents, and so they can be able to make their decisions. So another rule is to ensure that what is happening in your partner's life or into your ex's life is not your business. Because they may want to start dating again. And so if you're to speak with your ex, if you're to speak with the other parent, just keep it the business of the child. Don't go into personal things like how was your day, so what about this Easter holiday and all those kind of things. Strictly stick to the children. If you're talking about a child, you can talk about the child and not talk about yourself, because you know there will be emotions. If you start talking about, you know, I was out with my boyfriend or I was out with my girlfriend, you know, there's that issue of the man starting to feel like, no.
But what if you have reservations about whoever your co-parent could be seeing? Basically, it all zeroes into the welfare of the child. Maybe you're not comfortable with their lifestyle. Maybe you're not comfortable with something. Something is not adding up in that relationship. And as a co-parent, you're concerned because this could be the future mother or the future father of your child. Do you have a say?
Are you saying you would want to choose?
Do you have a say? No, I'm just asking.
No, you don't have a say over what or whom your ex chooses. Stick to the welfare of your child. If your child is at risk, if you probably can sense abuse or there is abuse, the welfare of the child. So whatever business that these people, the two people are doing together, why he chose on this girl or why the girl chose on this man and not you, is a different story altogether. Like, keep your communication like business-like. You know, the way you deal with your boss.
Professional.
Keep it professional. Talk about the child only. So if the girl, whatever style, whatever you know about the lady or the man of your ex should actually not be your business. Stick to the issue of your child, because then you're starting to deviate from the main issue. You know, and start to sort of trying to choose that this may not be the best stepmother or stepfather for my child.
So you totally don't have a say in what happens? You
don't have a say in what happens in that man's life.
So in the event that these two people have decided to have a relationship and one of the partners is co-parenting with their ex, you know, what would you advise in terms of how far is too far? For example, this couple is having lunch and the baby mama or the father of the baby is calling, you know, and the partner could be feeling a bit uncomfortable with that kind of closeness. I mean, what are some of the things that people who are co-parenting should consider before they move into a new relationship?
Well, not maybe things to consider before moving into a new relationship, because then it will depend with someone. Whenever they want to move in with someone else. But again, boundaries. So we can talk about when do I call you or when can you call me.
So you need to discuss it.
You need to discuss it formally and ensure it is done. Like if you say no calling me because you're asking about the birthday, you can actually even do parallel parenting. That means if the child has a birthday, let the man do it and let the mother also do it. Have 2 birthdays, because then this issue of you being in a situation whereby you're going for your son's or your daughter's birthday and there's another person in that person's life, then that can make you quite uncomfortable. So can you do parallel parenting? If it's an issue of maybe the mother calling in the middle of the night that the baby is unwell and blah, 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 can you talk about what we can do? Can you get a cover for that child so the mother doesn't have to bother you in the night? So can they book an Uber, take Uber or whatever other means of transport to the hospital? You don't have to come and drive them to the hospital, because then those are you're also guarding the relationship on the other side. Just like the way you would also want to guard your relationship if you had any, you know. So be mindful of when you talk. And these are things that people agree on, either in writing or people even go to court to talk about maybe the custody of the children and things. Stick to those things that you have discussed or the boundaries that we are talking about.
What do you need to do to make your partner comfortable with the fact that you could be having a baby mama or the father of your child still part of your life because you're co-parenting? Because some people would tend to feel a bit uncomfortable with that kind of arrangement, that at some point you would be meeting, discussing the welfare of the child and I'm not there. I mean, so how do you make, you know, that work? How do you make it easy for your partner?
Yes, I think it starts with an open communication. Right from the word go, when you have separated and you sort of will be calling each other, and at some point maybe they're also having relationship talk. So if I was going to get into another relationship and you were to stay with my baby, let's keep the lines of communication straight. Like if this man met a lady and he feels that maybe this is a person I want to meet, talk about your child, talk about that you have a child and you are the father or you are the mother. And at some point, if this child is not with you, he's with the father, or if he's not with the father, he's with you. You know, that kind of a thing. So that then even this new relationship that you're going to start on a clean slate. The person understands that maybe this is what I expect. If they feel that they are going to be uncomfortable at one point or the other, I mean, your child comes first, or you prefer a child. There are people who will prefer those new relationships than their children. It's still okay. Yes. The best thing is that you don't take it personal. You know, like, stick to the issue of the child, and that's it.
Would you agree that there is sometimes some element of, you know, extortion and taking advantage of the circumstances, you know, when it comes to this co-parenting agreement? Have you heard of cases or, you know, instances of sort?
Yes, of course there are those issues. Like you said, it has started from a place where people are not agreeing, and so maybe someone has gone with some resentment, has gone with some anger, and they will want to probably, like you're saying, extort them, like pay high school fees in very high cost schools, maybe move from one place to another where the man would be paying a lot of money. It's always good that you can agree, because the person who is paying or taking care of the other should actually be able to be within their means, like what is this what they are comfortable to do. Some cases will even end up in courts, and the man or the lady, depending with however it has gone, will be requested to say maybe how much and what they can be able to do, and then there's a point where they can probably say what they're able to do. If they're not able to do, then it will have minimized a lot of that exploiting each other. Yes.
There are instances where you find that a child is rebellious, especially when they feel that the father is seeing somebody else, and they prefer that the parents would get back together.
Yes. So
they kind of sort of depict that rebellious behavior, or the mother is seeing somebody else and they prefer the father. Yes. So how do you deal with that?
Of course, it's a tricky situation. and you also cannot be able to rule out the fact that there's some influence from either of the parties, either the mother or the father. You know, there's that place where you would want to pull your child and tell them, don't agree, like, don't even listen to them, and that kind of a thing. Of course, that's a negative way of doing it, because then if the child starts to rebel, it is important for them to know that there are decisions that parents make and they have nothing to do with them. Okay? Yeah, they have nothing to do with them. And if they have nothing to do with them, then they ought to know, it is important for this child to know, both parents, like you have an obligation as a mother or as a father to be able to sit down with your child and say, look, this is how it has gone. We are separating with your dad or with your mom, and at some point you'll be staying with them, at some point you'll be staying with me. You might find someone in my life, you might find someone in their life, you know, like you start preparing them. And of course then when you're doing that, you're giving them age appropriate information. They need to synthesize, you know, the only you know, information that they can be able to put in to process at that time. Age. Then you keep building on what you have told them as you move on. Yes.
We are running out of time for this conversation, but I won't leave you without asking you the financial aspect of it. And this was a thorny one, that a woman has been married, they've moved on, but they're still co-parenting. But before she got married, the father of the child was paying rent and taking care of all the basic necessities. So after she has gotten married, does the man still continue to pay the house rent and all that? Like, what are the financial boundaries?
Of course, there are those financial boundaries, and I know that's a funny one, like you're saying. I guess then it is only fair enough, and it even for the sake of the man. Like if you got married and the other man was paying house rent, then it is only good that rent, because then you're married and maybe the person was even married, you has even a house, so you don't need rent. That money can be channeled into the child. Remember, we are saying it has only to be the welfare of the child that you're having together. So issues to do with if the person has gotten married, and of course by and by this man gives up, or this person will give up, they'll be like, or even this lady, like if it is soaring emotions in this partner, then you don't have to continue doing it if he's able to do it. But if the person then continues to insist that then I must continue doing this, or I must continue doing this for my child, it is still okay. Let them support them, let them take them to school, and that kind of a thing. The other thing I would also want to mention that I know I've found in my counseling profession with parents is that they will want that because Shosho is having a certain party at home, you're wondering, so do I go with this child? It is important and it is good to know that only a child is supposed to attend, to even remove the ridicule. I mean, you're married, so the father of the child is also joining you. It doesn't bring out a good picture. So it is important to also talk about it. Like, can you come to our place when you're having like a Rora show or something, you know, like a function at home, and then agree. And all this agreement has actually to be revolving around the welfare of the child and the interest
so
of the child. So
at the end of the day, every decision is what is in the best interest of this child.
Exactly.
Not about the two of you.
Exactly.
All right. I wish you could continue, but that's all the time we had for tonight for this conversation. But of course, it's a conversation we should hopefully pick up next Sunday and talk about co-parenting. We'll discuss that. But just before we wind up, probably, because it's a journey that somebody cannot, do alone. You walk with parents through this. Probably one would want to reach out.
Yeah. If anyone would want to reach out, like I said, I can always give them my number. Yeah, so 0721 697 107. Let's catch up. Let's talk about it. You don't have to die because you're thinking about and those emotions that people are going through are actually very normal. When of course it is like loss and grief. When someone has lost, there is anger, there is bargaining, of course it doesn't take a linear emotion until you get to a safe space where you are comfortable, you have no feelings about your ex, and you can still talk about this child.
All right.
So
thank you so much. Thank you, Jen Ruben, for your time. Of course, a lot of questions still coming in. We'll be picking this conversation up. Co-parenting sounds easy, but it's not. You ask those who are in it right now, they will tell you some of the challenges that they are currently facing as they try to raise their child in the best way possible. We'll be discussing this as we continue right here on Sunday Express, but that's the much time we had for this conversation tonight, unfortunately, and that's how we put a cap on it. I've been having a sit down with Jane Ruben, a parental empowerment facilitator. You can also call her parental coach if you like, simply like that. And my name is Serfine Achieng Ouma. Our sign language interpreter tonight has been Anne Wangeshi. Have a good night and God bless.